Yo guys, it's been a while, but I'm back after weeks away due to illness and injury. I travelled with my teammate Ty-Fi Purple to play in the Northwest Beyblade League, hoping to secure our spot for the Northwest BBX League Victor, where the top 16 are going to play all out to be crowned champion. Guys, after going 9-0 last week, I was feeling confident coming into this. However, I was out due to falling sick immediately after my Manchester trip. And now I'm back in Preston and just hoping to do much better. And as you will see in this tournament, there were plenty of highs, plenty of lows, but that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. So, round one, we begin where I end up getting a really good launch with Shark Scale, catches the rail nice and cleanly, and then Rod just sitting right in front of that extreme zone, couldn't help myself but just take 3 points, opening the tournament, the best case scenario, going into my second Beyblade, Mummy Curse, to defend the lead against Silver Wolf on 960 free ball, which again, I saw a lot of Silver Wolves in this tournament.
3, 2, 1, shoot!
I launch as hard as I possibly can just to ensure I get spin finish. Accidentally reverse X in here, but not completely mad at it. Quite confident in this matchup, although as you'll see later on in the tournament, it ended up proving to be a problem for me, which was an eye-opener because for the most part in this matchup, I have enjoyed most of the wins, but this tournament kind of flipped that on its head and made me realize that, you know, outside of the top 3, most bays in, you know, lower S and high A tier are actually quite close. But in this match, as you'll see here, with losing a lot of stability, and I get the comfortable spin finish to open the tournament. Still undefeated in Swiss, best case scenario, a 4-0 win.
Well played.
Going into round 2, this match was a very interesting one, where it just back and forth action, and what just felt like freak accident after freak accident. Not every match is going to look pretty, and you know, not every win's going to look pretty, and as you'll see here, this was by far one of my worst wins. My opponent made this really difficult. I ended up launching Shark what felt comfortably, but as you can see here, just almost getting extremed off the bat and losing stamina. Rare and insane hiccup, but nonetheless had to keep my head in the game. But at this point I'm quite nervous because Mummy Curse is going up against Cobalt Dragoon, which is one of the harder matchups. And as you'll see here, just a fluke game. My opponent's Cobalt Dragoon just explodes. I get the 2 points, and I'm just, you know, you take what you can get, right? 2 points, I'll take it. No matter how I get it, I'll take it. Although it's just not how I want to get them. Meter Dragoon versus Rod 960 free ball. I'm quite confident in this matchup, but as you'll see, one tap and just burst. My opponent gets 2 points. This match was quite something, guys, to tell you the truth. It was quite something. But it's 3-2 to my opponent on reshuffle, and at this point, I've just been able to analyze that my opponent is more than likely going to play Cobalt Dragoon and get that 1 point. You know, there would be no point in risking it in an attack type first. So, reading my opponent correctly, he presents Dragoon, and I use Shark Scale, knowing it's my best chance at countering the Dragoon matchup if I launch hard enough. And as you can see, get a nice clean launch, and the game plan works out. Get nice big hits on the Dragoon to destabilize it. And as you can see here, Dragoon not looking as stable as it should. At this point, I'm just nervous Dragoon is going to do what it does best and churn out spin finish. But luckily for me, my game plan worked and I get the spin finish, keeping myself in the game, giving myself a chance to win. So Mummy Curse up against Wizard Rod. Sorry, Hover Wyvern, 960 Jolt. And as you can see here, this is where the crucial part happens for Mummy Curse, where just want to make sure you tank those hits, which is what happens. Hover Wyvern starts losing that stability, it starts tilting on that tiny bit. Jolt is a very interesting bit. I am fond of it, and I was planning on running it this tournament, but when in practice it just didn't look as well. And as you see here, get spin finish. Still undefeated in Swiss after an insane game, going into round 3. Again, just this tournament didn't feel like from my best. Compared to the last time I played it here, this felt like a very not bad tournament. As you can see here, just this was a constant in this match, just mid-airs. But yeah, far from my best performance. But again, it's one of those things in Beyblade competition where it's like, I'll take any win I can get, no matter how pretty or ugly it looks. Although it's just better when things are clean. And then as you can see here, almost getting extreme finish, almost getting a pocket. And similar to what happened to me in my previous match, my opponent's Bay just runs out of steam immediately. And then Wizard Rod vs Mummy Curse, quite confident going into this match. However, you will see that, you know, it's the roll of the dice, and sometimes a favorable matchup isn't always a guaranteed win. In my mind, I thought I would win this, but what I noticed mid-game was, as my Mummy Curse was on a 760, it doesn't have as much stamina as it would on a 960, which is what I originally had planned for the tournament. However, after analysing their meta, I took out Meter Dragoon and had to make those last second adjustments. And as you can see here, this is one of the things that happen with those adjustments. You know, you take those trade-offs, and as you can see here, not for the first time and last time in this tournament, I end up losing a spin finish using Mummy Curse. Shark Scale versus Wizard Rod, low orb. I was very nervous when I saw it. However, after looking at the fact that my opponent had a 170 low rush, I knew I would be pretty confident. My main concern was really just getting sniped. And again, not for the last time in this match, another mid-air as I'm trying to reverse X, just catching my opponent unintentionally. And with this matchup again, it was just a case of slight tilt, pull hard, and just avoid getting sniped. And as you can see here, nerve-wracking to be on the receiving end of hits from Shark Scale, but at this point I'm very confident that I've gotten the spin finish, and just again giving myself that advantage going into the reshuffle where my opponent is going to be down on points, so will probably be more aggressive. So again, anticipating that my opponent would more than likely be aggressive. We have a Shark Mirror, 170 low rush from my opponent, 360 low rush on my side, and as Shark Mirrors are just high octane battles that can result in big points, or sometimes just massive battles that result in 1 point. And as you can see here, it just ended up becoming a game of stamina and stability, which I had the more favorable end of this, as I was on 360 and my opponent was on 170. So as you can see here, get those hits off, destabilizing it, and getting a spin finish, putting myself at match point in a comfortable position to close out the game. So I make the change this time to play with Wizard Rod number 2, as I lost the spin finish to Rod Hexar. I end up missing the call because another judge synchronized his call with my judge, and therefore I couldn't focus and I missed it. So ended up being a reshoot, just one of those weird incidents that happened on this day. And then a mid-air to follow right after, once again, just what felt like failing upwards. This tournament, far from my prettiest work. This time, getting a clean launch. Confident this time around that I'll be able to beat the Wizard Rod on spin. Again, Wizard Rod 160 Hexa is an amazing build, and incredibly reliable. It's the reason why it shows up in almost every winning tournament deck. And as you see here, that 960 low orb just destabilizing the 160 Hexa. Yeah, what felt like an incredibly tense game comes to an end here. And then I think in my mind here that I was gonna scrape and lose really poorly and my opponent get a freaky spin finish, but luckily Rod, as reliable as ever, gets the spin finish. Still undefeated in Swiss 3-0. However, that all came to an end when I played Supersonic, my opponent here, who was ranked higher on the Northwest Beyblade League. I was pretty excited for this matchup, hoping I would play him, and you know, for what you don't ask for, you don't receive. So as you can see here, got the rematch after beating him in my 9-0 win in Manchester. I knew he was going to be a tough opponent, so I decided to open with Shark and try to give myself as big of a lead as possible in the beginning. And as you'll see here, that just wasn't the case. Shark not catching the road clean and not getting those big hits. I almost go out the pocket, my opponent almost goes out. But as you can see, once we get to this stage, I'm pretty certain that I'm losing this. As good as Shark's skill is, if you don't get those big hits against Wizard Rod early, more than likely you're going to lose that spin finish. Shark's skill is amazing when it comes to, you know, end game stamina, but Wizard Rod will forever reign supreme of this domain. So my opponent takes the 1 point, and after my previous match I decided to keep Rod as number 2, and which paid dividends here, going up against my opponent Shark's scale, avoiding big hit, almost getting 2 points off my opponent, and then almost going out myself. Quite tense matchup. However, once we get to about this stage in the match, the reverse of the roles has occurred, where my Rod is looking stable and his Shark isn't looking as good. And again, just like the first matchup, switcheroo, and I get spin finish, keeping myself in the game and not letting my opponent get that 2 point lead over me. And here comes a real surprise. So my opponent uses Wolf 960 on UN, and surprisingly just makes, you know, a very difficult match against Mummy Curse. I was quite confident that I'd win it on weight and stability. In this matchup, usually Mummy Curse has gotten the better of Wolf. However, I think because of that underlead or that lower height, it just somehow managed to destabilize Curse. Also, I think because it's on a 760, this was just not a good matchup, and I just, as you will see in this match, got, you know, found out rather slowly that this wasn't gonna be my day. And then here comes the leans and bops, and I'm worried, and I'm just hoping Mummy Curse can destabilize Wolf. Seemed to have some promise, but unfortunately I just abruptly die in the middle. My opponent leads going into the reshuffle.
Who's got Sky Sports on the phone? I do, I'll be live. Oh, funding it. I've been looking at it.
So going into the reshuffle, I decided to put Wizard Rod first, just to keep myself in the game. Hopefully, you know, if push comes to shove, I can get 1 point or potentially leave with more. And then again, just my opponent, this matchup is incredibly terrifying. Shark going absolutely haywire. Look, so does Wizard Rod, but looking far more stable than Shark. And again, once we get to about this stage, I'm confident that I'm going to get a spin finish, and that Shark is going to get one of those last you know, last second pings to win the game.
3, 2, 1, shoot!
So game plan works out, get another point on the board. And then Shark Scale versus Rod, again, just a mirror of the first matchup. Unfortunately for me, this is where the undefeated streak in Swiss came to an end. Just good launch, but absolute insane snipe there from my opponent, and he gets the win, ending my undefeated streak. Shout out to Supersonic, who also went undefeated in Swiss this tournament. So losing to some tough competition, you know, when you do well, you've got to play the best. And as you can see here, in this matchup, in the decider, after 4 rounds, I'm 3-1, but I know that I need to win this match to get in the top 8 and then better my chances of getting points towards the leaderboard.
3, 2, 1, shoot!
Almost getting the 2 points there, using Mummy Curse again. Hover just pocket jumping, getting big hits on Curse. I almost go out the pocket, managed to stay in, and at this point it's just a game of stability. And I know that my ace Mummy Curse is going to do what it does best and smash those attackers down and get the 1 point. My opponent launches slightly early. And as you can see, this is again one of those roll of the dice things where it's unfortunate that happens, but as you'll see, once we get a clean launch, I end up not getting the better end of the stick, but that's again just sometimes how the cookie crumbles in Beyblade. Both mirror, and then unexpectedly my Wizard Rod just goes haywire and goes flying into the pocket. My opponent is now up. And at this point, I was thinking that it was a possible midair, but it's cleared, it's clean, and then up against Phoenix Wing, which I don't see as much often. An oldie but a goodie. It has been phased out in the meta a bit, but you know, it's still a viable Beyblade in this meta.
3, 2, 1, shoot!
And just an insane matchup where Shark just goes flying up the stadium. Again, at this point, it just feels like luck is not on my side and things are taking a turn for the worse. But again, trying to keep a cool, calm, collected mind going into this match. However, as you'll see here, this is just how it completely fell apart. Get a good clean launch, but as you'll see here, devastatingly for me, Shark goes absolutely insane on the rail and goes flying out into the extreme zone. I lose to my opponent and unfortunately fail to qualify for top 8. So there you have it, guys. I finished 10th out of 30 participants, just failing to miss out on Top Cup by 2 shots and points difference. I'm not completely mad at it. It's the first time I bladed in a month after illness and injuries, so you know, I take what I can get. And because of that performance, I end up in the top 16 in qualification spot for the Northwest BEYBLADE League Victors Championship. However, that isn't going to last long, so I've got 2 more events to go to solidify my spot in the top 16 for the Northwest BEYBLADE League Victors final. Again, if you guys have made it this far, I appreciate that support. Keeps me motivated and it just helps out a ton when making these videos, knowing that people are watching this long. But even for 1 minute, 15, however long, I appreciate all support regardless. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like and a comment down below. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do that right now. But yeah, until next time, guys, I will see you later. Peace.